Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Stephen Fletcher pulls out of the Scotland squad for the international friendly tomorrow night against the Czech Republic. Celtic will opt out of the second Premiership game of the season to play Inter Milan in a Champions tournament. And we'll look back at last night's fixtures in the Championship and in League Two. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and delighted our bootroom guest is St Mirren boss Alec Rae. So let's look at Stephen Fletcher. First of all, Ruffy pulls out of the Czech Republic. Don't anticipate he'll be back in for Denmark either.
Yeah, by all accounts he's went over to France and he's done reasonably well. I think he's looking for a new contract over there, so we'll have to wait and see whether he gets it or not. But obviously I would like to think that the injury he's got is legit.
Yeah, well, he is ill. Although I would be ill if I thought there was a real deal on at Marseille, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, well, he's got his career to look for. You know, it never happened for him at Sunderland. So if he's got a good deal on the plate over there, why not take it?
Yeah, it gives Gordon Strachan, I'm sure, in these two friendlies, Alec, the chance to look at Ross McCormack and Tony Watt.
Yep, I was in Belgium last year, and Tony was playing for. God, who was he playing for?
Liège.
Standard Liège, yes. Yeah. And he was kind of a bit part, and then he went back over to Charlton, and now I think he's at Blackburn. So he's kind of flittered about. I think it's time for Tony to settle down, try and kind of establish himself and get amongst the goals. And the last thing you want to be is like kind of a wandering player. I think it's important to get his career up and running and get amongst the goals. But this is a terrific opportunity for Tony Watt to establish himself.
Yeah, I'm looking at the squad, Ruffy, for the Czech Republic. I mean, let's be honest about it. There will be, as we go into that World Cup qualifying campaign, a nucleus of 6 or 7 of what we would call your bog standard guys who will be retained from the previous campaign. I think Gordon's hoping that maybe 1, 2 or 3 could somehow force their way into his thinking.
Yeah, we had this discussion the last time, and I think if the big game was to come up tomorrow, I think we all could pick 9 of the players, possibly 10 that will be in it. So it's up to the guys who have been given a chance, you know, to impress. There might be one out there. I mean, there has been a few in Kitchiania. We didn't really know much about him. He came in right at the very start and was magnificent. So maybe he's looking for somebody like that. I just hope that, particularly at home, that Gordon's always said he's always looking at different ways to play. I would like us to sacrifice that sitting midfielder. We play with 2 sitting midfielders. I would like to sacrifice one of them and play somebody more in an attacking mode at home, particularly. I think the failing last time, particularly at home, was we never created as many chances as what we should have.
Well, let's look at the squad then. Can we afford to do that, Alec? Do we have that type of player that Ruffy's craving for, that suddenly can go and force the game, push it, be creative as well?
I think Kenny McLean's got goals among his repertoire, so you think he may well do that. One of the things about the Scotland squad of recent years is you're trying to be compact and then try and nick a goal. And but I understand what Ruffy's talking about. It's just trying to identify that. You know, I was talking about Matt Phillips earlier on as well. I worked with him at Blackpool, and he was phenomenal. He was on fire, and I think QPR paid £5 million for him. So I was kind of surprised, because one of the things about Matt Phillips is that he has power and pace. He's definitely a match winner. You know, he's as I said, he's got a thunderous shot from outside the box. So maybe one of these two, Kenny McLean or Matt Phillips, may well step out of the bunch. But there's not a lot actually kind of jumping out, Peter. There's no this fresh blood. It's kind of this next generation, people chapping on the door, and it's actually concerning, because obviously you have to go with the same mob and expect them to qualify.
Yeah, and are we better equipped now, Ruffy, or are we equally as worried about the World Cup qualifying campaign? We all know about England in the group, but when I look at the players that potentially come through, one that's a bonus, and I'll be honest with you, is Darren Fletcher. He's playing regularly for West Brom now and getting back to his best. I mean, if you ask West Brom fans about him, they're more than happy that he's getting regular football.
Yeah, and I think Gordon said all along, he's not kidding anybody on, and Alex touched on it briefly there. We don't have the big stars that we used to have, so he's trying to get a work ethic in there, you know, that the players can all benefit from each other and work as a team, and that's what he's done. The first thing he said, I'm going to go in there with plan A, is get us hard to beat, and I think he's done that. Yeah. You know, I think in games, you know, we've shown that we are very difficult to beat. I just hope there's another step, you know, that we can go forward, and I'd like to think we could try and get back to the threat we used to be at Hampden. You know, I think there's too many teams come. All right, sometimes you give them too much respect, but we look at the Poland game. You know, I thought that particular game, if we'd went at them a wee bit earlier, we might have got something at it.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and I have to listen to the manager, listen to what he says, and you know, experienced guys like yourself. It's all about levels. You know, if you look at the level of the football these guys are playing in this squad, it's not the top end anymore for us. We've got to hope that these guys punch above their weight as a team, Alec.
No, absolutely. I was just writing down prior to coming on air, I would say about 75% of the team are playing in the Championship. The ones that are playing in the Premiership, Hutton and Martin, are kind of down the bottom 3 or 4. Anya's in and out of the Watford team, not playing as much as we'd like to. And then that's it really. So you've more or less got a Championship team, whereas going back to 98, it was littered by guys that are in the Premiership, John Collins, McAllister, Lambert, you know, McCall. So, you know, that's just the midfielders of that, just identify with myself. So it was littered with kind of top players playing at good levels. So he doesn't have the luxury of this. But the one thing about Gordon is he's managed to get them really well organised. And I think that's the way forward. I think if Scotland open up, as Ruffy's suggesting rather, then if he opens up, I feel as if they would get carved open. And part of the problem we have is when we play against the Czech Republic and these other teams is technically we're not at the same level.
Yeah.
So they just pick you off, Ruffy, and that's the reason why you have to be compact.
Yeah, the reason why I would sit with 2 holding midfielders, and I'm not being derogatory towards the boys, it's just the state we're in, Ruffy. It doesn't matter how many good midfielders we have or maybe someone that shines in a striking role. We have a dearth of talent in the central defensive area. And that's no disrespect to these boys. They're available, they give their all, but we no longer have centre halves of that commanding physique that can be, you know, the last line of defence from set pieces and a threat from set pieces at the other end of the park. We don't seem to have them anymore.
No, don't you kidding Gordon Strachan on either. He knows that as well. But we have to give the boys that are in there credit. You know, they're in there and giving a fair shift for their country, and they're doing their best. But there's no names getting thrown about. There's no even 19s, 21s. We're not talking about centre halves. So these are the guys that are in there, and these are the guys that have to see us through the next campaign.
Yeah, and when we talk about levels, our under-19s lose to Belgium today by 2-0. We now need the under-21s to produce something against France tomorrow to even have an outside chance of European Championship qualification. So, you know, as we look down each level, we're just saying, please give us some modicum of hope.
Well, one of the things is, having worked in Belgium last year, the actual quality of player that they're producing at the moment is phenomenal. You know, you look at some of the old club Genk, for example, they had Kevin De Bruyne, Benteke, Courtois was a goalkeeper, Koulibaly. So they're producing these guys time after time, and the actual kids that they were producing were technically fabulous. But one of the things that you have is, and this is an interesting thing, having worked with Ricky Sprazier at the 17s, once you qualify for that first elite group, then you actually go into the next group, and it's only 1 out of the 4 that actually progress. But what I identified at that time was when you were playing against Denmark, they did have elite players. You know, in the first round robin of Macedonia and the likes, we were competitive, we managed to qualify. But once you went up to that next level and you get the elite countries, Belgium, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, all of a sudden the level just goes to there. And I think that's probably the case today when they've went to there, because I always thought it would be the acid test for Scotland, how they coped in this little group, albeit it's only the first game, and they may well produce some decent results. Once you get to that level, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, as far as the game tomorrow night, Ruffy, I never read into friendlies. Gordon Strachan will use them as a learning curve, and the Czech Republic are going to use their team to experiment as well.
Yeah, but that's what these games are for. You know, we all want to see how certain people that we discuss. I mean, there's Lee Griffiths. You know, the big question for him is, can he do it at a higher level? You know, we know he can score goals at our level, but that be something that Gordon's looking at. You know, can he do it as a lone striker and a better standard of players? But that remains to be seen. Alex already touched on Kenny McLean. We know what he can do, but sometimes these guys go into these games and they can do it. and they surprise you, and then that gives you something to think about.
Yeah, well, let's hope we maybe get one or two from this one, and maybe another one that shines in the game against Denmark. You can give us your thoughts on that at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, and give us your thoughts also on peterandruffy.com. Coming up after the break, we're going to ask the burning question: just why did Alec Ray get sent to the stand last night at New St Mirren Park? I looked on and thought surely his assistant deserved to go. We'll get his thoughts on St Mirren's performance against Raith Rovers. We'll also look at Clyde's win in the second division. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our boot-room guest, I'm delighted to say, is the St Mirren boss, Alec Ray. I decided to go to New St Mirren Park last night. I must admit, is it fair to say that you guys shot yourself in the foot because you started well and then breakaway and a mistake?
Yeah, we were really disappointed in the manner in which we lost the 2 goals, and I think that's a frustrating thing for us as a club. You know, we're starting the game relatively well, and from our corner kick, as you rightly said, it ended up with a 3v2, and we just didn't cope with that. You know, we were on the back foot, and it gave them a lifeline. But you know, and obviously an individual error for the second one kind of cost us. But the good thing about this group of players is how we respond. We managed to get a goal relatively quickly going into the break, and I think it was pretty even Steve in the second half. The game kind of petered out a little bit, which was disappointing from our point of view. And when the chance fell to Shanklin late on, about 75 minutes or so, we felt this is a chance we've been waiting on. And unfortunately, he's just dragged it past the post. But it was frustrating, Peter, because we'd obviously come off the back of a couple of wins. So we wanted to continue. We've been relatively solid at home recently, where the previous 5 games we'd won 4 and drawn 1. So we wanted to continue that. We wanted to have a kind of good home form, and it just kind of puts us that more important to get 3 points against Alloa at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there are good signs there, as you probably well know. Do you feel? I know you're never complacent. Do you feel as if you guys have achieved the remit? Because I cannot see you going out of that division now. You know, if you have a look at the table after last night's result, you can see that you guys are. I mean, do you look at it and say that job done?
No, not at all. We for the last couple of victories we had against Queen of the South and at the weekend against Livingston, we were always, every time we were coming in, we wanted to know how Livingston were doing, because obviously they kind of kept picking up points. We've got a 10 point gap at the moment, all being Livingston have a game in hand, so we want to kind of try and secure our safety sooner rather than later. I've always focused on the one above. It was always the one above so that we could continuously climb. I've got to give the squad tremendous credit, Peter, when you consider like 7 wins out of the last 14 league games. It's not bad form, and I think up until last night's game, we'd taken the 3rd amount of points after Rangers and Falkirk. So we'd taken the 3rd most points in the period that had been at the club. I think Raith Rovers have leapfrogged us now, so the squad's done relatively well in the period that I've been there. We just don't want this season to peter out. We wanted to kind of we want to kick on as well, you know, and just we want to give the fans their money's worth.
Yeah, and do you feel confident that with a nucleus of players that will obviously force their way into your thoughts for next season, what's that budget going to be like in the summer? Do you know yet, or have you had a chance to chat with anyone?
It was just a brief chat with the board, really, where we're going to be next year. I think one of the things I'd like to do is try and get some people tied up rather than going into the summer, because I think we've got 14 or 16 players out of contract, so it's more or less the whole squad. There's probably about 6 players tied up for next year, so over the next couple of weeks we really need to look at this and going forward and prepare properly.
And we had Barry Ferguson and trying to get out of the division he was in, and he was saying that he had identified the kind of player that he needs to get out of that division. Yeah. Have you had the same thought of the kind of players absolutely. That you need to take you upwards?
No, listen, I know we've assessed it. We managed to bring in 4 in the January window, which is obviously given us that stability. We're losing 2 of them at the moment, Rocco Quinn and Clarkson, who have made a big difference to us. So, you know, we know what it takes to get out of this division. We know how to compete at this level. So we just need to go and identify these players and try and add them to the squad with the ones we've got, and then obviously try and re-sign some as well.
Yeah. Do you think you need more battlers or craft?
A bit of both, Peter. I think it's, well, you need a bit of experience, you need a bit of youth. I think it's a bit of balance. I think we need a wee bit more craft in the final third. And, you know, But that'll come obviously over the next few months, where we can maybe try and identify some and try and add that kind of going forward.
Yeah, I must admit, if I was in the bookies last night, I'd have said, "Oh, Farrell's definitely getting sent to the stand." How you managed to, I'll never.
No, listen. I don't know how I got sent either. I find it astonishing, but listen, we just have to deal with these things. They're here to test us, and we just maybe move on. I think the important thing is for us as a group is just to keep focus on what we can control, and then obviously try and kind of get the 3 points this weekend, and then kick on to some really big games. We'll get Falkirk, Rangers, Hibs, Morton at home as a derby, Dumbarton away. So we'll get some really tough fixtures coming up.
And on the flip side of that, Ruffy, I think it would be remiss of me not to mention Wraith Rovers. I think they've secured for me 4th position, definitely for the playoffs.
Yeah, it looks that's the case now. The important result again last week against Hibs, but Ray's added some players in there with a bit of experience. He's been fortunate enough that his board have let him bring some players in, and that's been the transformation in his squad. So no, they've done particularly well to get in there.
I think one of the key things for Raymond's team was he added 4 strikers in January as well, so it gave him that wee bit of flexibility, a bit of manoeuvring, and they've obviously done well for him.
And what a result last night for Clyde. 2-1 against Annan, and suddenly he's a point behind East Fife in that division. Barry Ferguson signed a contract extension to 2019, which will please the Clyde fans, but he's worked wonders with them.
Yeah, he certainly has, but even though Annan got beat last night, I think they'll still fancy their chances. The top 5 are very, very tight in that league.
Yeah, just have a look at the League 2 table. You can see Clyde just tucked in behind now, and suddenly, the games against the teams around them could be oh so crucial, Alec.
Absolutely, and I think that makes your mark. It's good to see big Marvin Andrews still plying his trade there. He's a good friend of mine, Marvin, and obviously Barry and Bob were at Rangers with us, so it'll be important for him. It's good. It's been a great kind of grounding for Barry and Bob, to go in there, because it can be easy, with Barry at the level he was at, to go in with the greatest respect to the Clyde players, but he's went in there and he's managed to make them competitive, and they'll be looking to bounce up this year. Yeah,
it's slightly embarrassing for Barry and Bob that Marvin's still playing. 74 now, Ruffy. I mean, you remember they said that he wouldn't play again with the knees that he had and the problems that he had there.
Yeah, but as we all know, he believes in his faith. You've got the big man shouting for you, then what chance have you got? You'll be playing every game.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not start on that, Ruffy, because you could still be playing to now if you had faith. But nevertheless, let's crack on with some other points that I want to get, because Alec, coming up, I don't want to start it too early, but everybody's talking about Celtic Rangers are still a good 2 or 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
And it's a game that's, you know what it's like, the red-hot atmosphere of it all. What do you think we can expect this time around? Because, again, it goes down to what we're talking about in the first part of the programme, levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say that Rangers are performing a lot better than they did against them last year. I think Celtic could have put down a marker, and it could have been a really comprehensive victory, 4 or 5. But this time I think it's a different ball game. I went to see Rangers last week, and you've seen the good and the bad really. The first 45 minutes I thought they were phenomenal. It was as good a football I'd seen from any Scottish team. Their passing, their movement, their full-backs getting down the flanks. It was just kind of blew Falkirk away, and I think the saving grace for Houston was that he got it 2-0, and then you see the other side of the coin, whereas there were some frailties defensively, and then obviously when the chips were down, Falkirk got the momentum and obviously got the winner at the death. So I think from Mark Warburton's point of view, he would be wanting them to play 90 minutes, and they'll have to be in the front foot because they're up against a different level of players that they've been used to week in, week out. Yeah.
Do you read into anything from this match? Because I think by the time next season comes, both teams change drastically again.
No, but the thing is, I think it'll be a yardstick. It's how people will gauge Rangers, how they can cope against Celtic, because they always try and do that. They've done it with St Johnstone earlier in the season. Then Rangers beat Dundee most recently. And I think going forward, if they could get a result against them, it would give the optimism for the Rangers fans. Whereas if they lost, then they'd be looking at, it's okay doing it against the Championship players, teams rather. And I think going forward, like you said, I think there'll be a total transformation. There'll be about 6 to 8 players come and go in at Rangers. So it will be, and likewise for Celtic. Celtic will have to recruit again in the summer, and but because it's not been the best season, they'll be looking to kind of spend some money in the summer, I would imagine, with the threat of Rangers coming as well. Hearts and Aberdeen are also coming, getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, I think Alex touched on it. I mean, he's played in them, and I think that'll be a big thing on the day. A lot of players in this game will have never experienced what's happened, and it'll be the ones that can stand up to the pressure that will come out winners.
Yeah, if you could sum it up in one word, just for some of those players that haven't sampled an Old Firm encounter, what would it be?
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just one of the best fixtures I've ever been involved in. The intensity of it. We're talking about it 3 weeks prior to it. I've played in lots of big games down south, and we're talking about it weeks in advance. And going up, it'll just the intensity of the whole thing and the whole furore that surrounds it. It's amazing. And if you can get me a couple of briefs, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just ask him which end he wants to go into first, and then I'll see if I can get a couple of them.
I know what Ruffy's in a minute. Look, that's the dress sense here.
Absolutely. Anyway, it was great. It was great chatting 3 weeks before the big game. Thanks to Alec Ray, to Ruffy, and for myself. Good night.